What's really holding you back? No, really. Stop for a second. Strip away the excuses, the noise, the stories you've told yourself 100 times. What's actually in your way? Is it the lack of talent? The bad timing? That you weren't born into the right family, in the right city, with the right connections? That maybe the stars just haven't lined up for you yet? Let me say something that might sting a little. It's none of those things. The truth is, the biggest obstacle in your path isn't out there. It's you. It's the hesitation, the doubt, the way you scroll through life waiting for a sign, instead of being the one who creates the moment. You've been told that success belongs to the lucky, the naturally gifted, the chosen few. But the Stoics, those ancient warriors of the mind, saw right through that illusion. They believed in one thing above all, agency. That no matter what storm is raging outside, you still control how you steer the ship. And you do. It's not about having the perfect circumstances. It's about making one decision, just one, that can redefine the entire course of your life. Not 100 resolutions, not a grand, dramatic change, just one honest commitment. To stop acting like the victim of your story, and start acting like the hero. Think about it, the most powerful people you know, they don't wait, they decide, they act, and it's not because they don't feel fear. It's because they don't let fear decide for them. I'll be blunt with you, most people won't do this. Most will choose comfort over courage. They'll shrink when they're supposed to rise. They'll make peace with mediocrity and call it realism. Don't be most people, because if there's one thing I've learned from both Stoicism and life, it's this: control what you can. And what you can control right now is the version of yourself that shows up today, not tomorrow, not when things calm down. Today. So, ask yourself again, what's really holding you back? Then, decide, not just to dream, not just to hope, but to act like the version of you who already knows their worth. Who already moves like the best, speaks like the best, leads like the best, because they are becoming the best. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a challenge, one that starts with a question and ends with your decision. The Stoic mindset isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's about developing discipline, clarity, and inner control in a world that constantly tries to pull you in 1,000 directions. It's the quiet power to choose your response when everything around you feels chaotic. It's saying no to distractions, no to petty arguments, no to the emotional roller coasters of others. It's about anchoring yourself so deeply within your principles that nothing on the surface can shake you. And that kind of strength, it doesn't come from external validation. It comes from within, from doing the hard things even when no one's watching, from holding yourself to a higher standard, not because the world demands it, but because you do. Look at Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, the most powerful man in the world at the time. He didn't chase applause. He didn't write to be admired. He wrote to remind himself to stay grounded, to stay human, to pursue virtue above all. Think about that. The man who had the world at his feet still asked himself every day if he was doing the right thing. Not the popular thing, not the easy thing, the right thing. That's what Stoicism teaches, not to dominate others, but to master yourself, not to obsess over outcomes, but to focus on effort, on intention, on showing up with integrity when it would be so much easier to coast. I've seen this mindset change lives, mine included. I used to chase everything outside of me, recognition, approval, success that could be posted and liked, but it always left me feeling hollow. Temporary wins, shaky confidence. It wasn't until I turned inward that I started to build something real. A code I could live by, a standard that didn't move depending on the mood of the crowd. That's when the noise started to fade. That's when I could hear my own voice again. And that's when I began to grow. Growth doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with a decision to stop running, stop chasing, and start building. Every day, the Stoics believed, is an opportunity to close the gap between who you were and who you're capable of becoming. Not for fame, not for fortune, but for the quiet satisfaction of knowing you lived today with purpose. You lived well. That kind of mindset doesn't just change your habits, it changes your life. It changes the way you walk into a room, the way you handle failure, the way you treat people who can do nothing for you. That is where strength lives, not in dominance, not in ego, but in restraint, in wisdom, in the relentless pursuit of becoming better than you were yesterday. And it all starts with one shift, one quiet, powerful decision to think like a Stoic. Being the best doesn't mean being better than everyone else. It doesn't mean walking into a room and demanding attention, or flexing your achievements like trophies. It's not about arrogance, ego, or some fantasy of perfection. It's about one thing, standard. Your standard, the one you set for yourself, the one you refuse to lower no matter who's watching or what the world expects. Acting like the best doesn't require applause. It requires discipline, quiet, consistent, often invisible discipline. It's waking up and choosing to live with intention. It's showing up when you're tired, pushing through when no one's clapping, and doing what's right even when it's not rewarded. The best aren't loud. They don't need to be. Their actions speak louder than anything they could ever post online. Look at elite athletes, the ones who train long before the world waits, who rehearse the same movement over and over again, chasing not applause but precision. Look at the master craftsmen, woodworkers, artists, writers, who refine their craft for years, not for fame, but for the love of excellence. Or the humble leaders who never raise their voices, but everyone listens when they speak. Why? Because they've earned trust, because they lead by example, not by force. That is what it means to act like the best. It's not about dominating, it's about embodying. Holding yourself to a code even when it's inconvenient, even when you're tired, especially when no one would blame you for cutting corners. I used to think being the best was about being seen, being the smartest in the room, the most successful, the most impressive, but that idea broke me. It made me perform for approval instead of living with purpose. And the more I chased being impressive, the more hollow I felt inside. Then one day, I asked myself, what if the best version of me doesn't need to be the loudest, the richest, or the most admired? What if the best version just needs to be the most honest, the most consistent, the most deeply aligned with what I believe? That shift changed everything. I stopped competing with others and started competing with my past self. I stopped chasing perfection and started chasing progress. To be the best is to walk into every day with clarity, with courage, and with care. It's knowing that your value doesn't come from comparison. It comes from the quiet war you fight within yourself. The one where you choose discipline over comfort, growth over stagnation, virtue over ego, and that battle is never glamorous. It's rarely seen, but it's the only one that matters. Because when you commit to living this way, the result isn't just success. It's peace, it's fulfillment, and it's the quiet confidence of knowing you're not just acting like the best, you're actually becoming it. Sometimes the thought creeps in, what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't have what it takes? That voice isn't rare, it's not a weakness, it's human. But what matters most is what you do with that voice. Do you let it run your life? Or do you recognize it for what it is, a thought, not a truth? Because the Stoics believed something powerful. Your thoughts are not just fleeting words in your head. They are the seeds of your actions. And your actions, repeated daily, shape the architecture of your entire life. So when the thought, I'm not the best yet, shows up, you don't have to fight it with denial. You face it. You say, maybe I'm not the best yet, but I can still act like I am. And that changes everything. Think about it. You walk into a job interview and the doubt hits you. I'm underqualified. They're going to see right through me. So you shrink. You speak smaller. You stop yourself mid-sentence. And just like that, the opportunity slips, not because you weren't ready, but because you believed a story that was never fact. Or in relationships, you meet someone who lights a fire in you, but you hesitate. You question if you're lovable enough, successful enough, attractive enough. So instead of showing up as your full self, you show up as a half version. And it's not the world that denies you. It's your own fear that blocks the connection. I've lived through that. I've held myself back, not because I lacked ability, but because I lacked belief. And that's the trap. The idea that you have to be the best before you can act like the best is backward. It's a lie dressed up as humility. True confidence doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from deciding that you're willing to grow into it. When you start acting like the best version of yourself, even if it feels awkward, even if no one else sees it yet, something shifts. Your posture changes, your voice steadies, your decisions sharpen. You carry yourself with a quiet dignity that says, I'm not here to prove myself. I'm here to live in alignment with my highest standard. And that is powerful, because here's the truth no one tells you. The people who end up becoming the best weren't born there. They built it, brick by brick, on days they felt uncertain. They failed, they doubted, They questioned everything, but they didn't quit. They kept acting like the person they wanted to be, until one day, they looked in the mirror and realized they had become that person. You don't need the world's permission. You don't need a sign. All you need is the courage to act, not someday, but now, not when you're perfect, but exactly as you are. That's not delusion. That's transformation in motion. We become what we repeatedly do, not what we occasionally try, not what we hope to become, but what we practice, day in and day out. That's not just a quote from Seneca. It's a warning and a promise. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. And here's the hard truth most people avoid. Confidence isn't gifted. Resilience isn't inherited. And discipline isn't some rare trait for the lucky few. They are built, carefully, repetitively, in silence. And that process, it's often unglamorous. It's waking up to do the work when no one is watching. It's facing the same fear for the 100th time. It's failing, and instead of crumbling, saying, again, because the practice is the path. I remember the first time I tried to speak publicly. My voice cracked, my hands shook, I stumbled over words I'd rehearsed a dozen times. In that moment, I wanted to disappear. But something told me that what I did next would matter more than what just happened. So I didn't run. I stood back up and tried again. And again. And again. Now, I speak with calm, not because I was born with it, but because I earned it. Through repetition. Through awkward, imperfect practice. That's the blueprint. The same goes for confidence. People think it's a feeling. It's not. It's a familiarity, a trust built from enough reps that your mind knows. I've been here before. I've handled this. I can do it again. Think about a muscle. When you first train it, it's weak, sore, shaky. But the more you work it, the stronger it gets. It's not a mystery, it's biology. And your mind works the same way. Repetition turns effort into identity. The more you show up with discipline, the more you start to see yourself as disciplined. The more you make resilient choices, the more resilient you feel. Your brain builds proof through action. And eventually, what once felt foreign becomes your nature. That's why the Stoics didn't just talk about philosophy. They lived it, practiced it, every day, because they understood that the daily habits are the legacy, not the speeches, not the moments of glory. The grind. There is something holy about ordinary effort. About lacing up your shoes when you're tired, about saying no to temptation when it's easier to give in, about writing one more page, running one more mile, making one more call. These moments seem small, but together, they build the unbreakable, and what you practice, you become. So the question is no longer who you want to be someday. It's what you're doing today. Because if you practice doubt, you become insecure. If you practice avoidance, you become passive. But if you practice courage, even clumsily, you become brave. Slowly, surely, irreversibly. That's not magic. That's discipline in motion. That's you, becoming. Acting like the best isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's not about covering your cracks with confidence or hiding your struggles behind a smile. It's about the courage to face what's broken head on, to look at your weaknesses, not with shame, but with clarity. The Stoics taught us that true strength begins with self-awareness, that before you can master the world around you, you have to first master the world within you. And that means being honest, brutally honest, about where you fall short, about where you give in too easily, about the thoughts that limit you, the habits that drain you, the patterns that keep repeating like echoes in your life. This kind of honesty isn't weakness. It's the beginning of transformation. We've been taught to fear our flaws, to bury them, to mask them with distractions, with overcompensation, with perfectionism. But all that does is delay the work, because weakness isn't failure, it's feedback, it's data, it's the map that shows you where the real work begins. If you avoid it, you wander in circles, but if you confront it, you find your direction. And trust me, I've done both. I've ignored what was hard to face. I've pretended certain parts of myself didn't need attention. But life has a way of exposing what you refuse to deal with. And when that mirror gets held up, you only have two choices: flinch or face it. And I've learned, time and time again, that facing it, no matter how uncomfortable, is always the beginning of becoming better. Humility and ambition aren't enemies. They're partners. Humility says, I have room to grow. Ambition says, and I will grow. You don't need to be ashamed of your current level. You just need to be committed to rising from it. That's what acting like the best really means. Not walking into the room with a puffed up chest, but walking in with a steady heart, not hiding the fact that you're learning, but proudly owning the process. Growth isn't glamorous, it's messy, it's vulnerable, it's hard conversations with yourself, it's showing up on days you feel like a fraud. But over time, those days get fewer. And the version of you who once doubted your own strength becomes the one others look to for guidance. So stop waiting to feel flawless before you take action. Stop thinking you have to fix everything before you can begin. You don't. You just have to be willing to look at your flaws with open eyes and an open mind. Use them, study them, train through them. That's where power is built, in the places you once thought were too broken to be strong. The cracks aren't where you end, they're where you begin. That's not a weakness, that's a weapon, and when you own it, no one, not even your past self, can use it against you again. When you lift yourself, you lift others. That's the essence of sympathia, the Stoic belief that we are all part of something larger, intricately connected like branches of the same tree. Every action you take, every mindset you choose, ripples outward. Your discipline doesn't exist in a vacuum. It creates a current. When you decide to show up with clarity and strength, the people around you feel it, even before you say a word. It's not about preaching or teaching. It's about becoming the kind of person whose very presence inspires others to raise their standards. Not because they're trying to compete, but because something in them wakes up. That's real influence. That's quiet leadership. I've seen it happen. I've seen people shift just by being in the presence of someone who takes ownership of their life. No grand speeches, no pressure, just consistency, calm, integrity, and something changes in the air. We often think we need to save others by giving advice, by fixing them, by pushing them, but more often than not, the best way to lift someone is to lift yourself, to embody the values you hope they'll find, to hold your ground when it's tempting to crumble, to pursue your growth so relentlessly that they begin to believe in their own again. That's the quiet magic of being aligned. People feel it long before they understand it. There's something powerful about someone who lives with purpose, not for the spotlight, but for the standard. They walk differently, they speak with weight, and even in silence, they say something, because presence speaks. Energy doesn't lie. You don't have to convince anyone when your actions do the talking. And the most powerful part, you give permission. When someone sees you conquer what they're afraid to face, you give them permission to try. When they watch you stay composed in the middle of chaos, you teach them it's possible. You become a mirror, not of who they are, but of who they could be. And that's when real change starts. That's when your growth becomes a gift. This isn't about perfection. It's not about being a role model in some polished, unreachable way. It's about being honest, about showing what it looks like to struggle and still move forward, to fall and still stand back up. People don't connect to invincibility, they connect to resilience. So let them see your fire, not your facade. Let them feel your discipline, not your dominance. Led by example, not by ego. That's how you lift others, not by carrying them, but by showing them how to carry themselves. That's the Stoic way. That's the legacy worth building. One quiet, unwavering step at a time. Failure isn't the end. It's not proof that you're not enough. It's not the moment that disqualifies you. Failure is the raw material of greatness, the forge where real strength is shaped. The Stoics never feared failure. Marcus Aurelius said it best. The obstacle is the way. They believed that what stands in the way becomes the way. That setbacks are not detours, but directions. When you fall, it's not the universe punishing you. It's life offering you a chance to build the muscle you didn't know you needed. Because failure is not the opposite of success. It's a prerequisite. And how you respond to it will define who you become far more than any easy win ever could. I used to take failure personally. I thought it meant I wasn't meant for it, that I didn't have what it takes. But looking back, every pivotal moment in my life was born from some kind of failure. The heartbreaks, the missed opportunities, the moments where everything I had built came crashing down, those were the sparks. They hurt, no question, but they also clarified. They exposed what was weak, what was missing, what I was avoiding. And when I stopped asking, why me, and started asking, what now? That's when I began to grow. That's when I started to build. Reframing failure is a discipline in itself. It takes practice to look at the wreckage of a goal and find the lesson buried in the rubble. It takes humility to say, I was wrong, but even more strength to say, and I'm ready to try again. This isn't just about bouncing back. It's about rising wiser. It's about using every stumble to sharpen your steps. The fall is inevitable, but the decision to get up, that's where you reclaim your power. That's where you separate those who fold from those who forge. The Stoic doesn't ask for an easier path. They ask for the strength to walk the one they're on. And failure is simply the terrain. Think about it. When you see someone who never gives up, who keeps evolving no matter how many times they've been knocked down, what do you feel? Respect, inspiration, maybe even awe, not because they've avoided failure, but because they've outgrown it. They've turned every breakdown into a breakthrough. That is what we should strive for, not to avoid pain, but to transform it, not to fear loss, but to extract wisdom from it. When you fail, fail forward, fall with purpose, learn faster, adjust quicker, rise stronger. Every great person you admire has a trail of failures behind them, but what sets them apart is they never let failure have the final word. Neither should you. Don't wait until you feel ready, because the truth is, you might never feel ready. Readiness is a myth we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of beginning. The path doesn't open when you feel like walking. It opens the moment you start. Start where you are, with what you have, in the body you're in, with the fears and doubts that still whisper in your ear. You don't need to eliminate them to take the first step. You just need to move. The best version of you isn't built in your head. It's built in your habits. And every single day, you have a choice. Stay in alignment with the old story, or take one step toward the new one. That's why I ask myself every morning, how would the best version of me show up today? Not some version that lives 10 years in the future, but the one that's one decision away, the one who takes responsibility, who honors commitments, who doesn't let mood dictate action. That version might not be fully formed, but it's already within me, and every action I take is either feeding it or fighting it. So I try to live in a way that echoes my values. Even in small, quiet ways, a better choice at breakfast, a calmer response to a stressful message, a moment of stillness instead of another scroll. These don't seem heroic, but over time, they build someone unshakable. Start with your health. Your body is the foundation of everything else. Move it, nourish it, respect it. Then your mindset, guard it, feed it books instead of noise. Give it space to breathe. Then your relationships, show up with presence, speak with care, choose people who sharpen your soul, not drain it, and your finances, yes, even that, handle your money with intention. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the life you're building. It's not about being perfect in all these areas. It's about being consistent, because consistency beats intensity. You don't need to do it all today. You just need to do something every day. This is where identity is forged, not in the bursts of motivation, but in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you keep a promise to yourself, when you do the thing you said you'd do. Even when it's hard, those are the bricks. Stack them, slowly, steadily. I've learned that the best transformations don't feel dramatic, they feel steady. They feel like choosing not to break the chain, like becoming someone you can rely on. And it's not always exciting, but it is empowering, because when you show up for yourself again and again, something clicks. You stop waiting for change. You become it, one step, one choice, one day at a time. You get to choose, not tomorrow, not next week, not after the fear fades or the timing feels right. Today, right now, in this very breath. That's what most people forget, that acting like the best isn't about pretending. It's not about putting on a mask or faking confidence until something magically changes. It's about choosing, over and over again, to live in alignment with the person you're becoming. It's a lifestyle, a daily decision, not a performance, not a show, but a private pact you make with yourself that no one else ever needs to see. Because the truth is, most of your growth won't be witnessed. It'll happen in the quiet, in the moments where no one is clapping, no one is watching, and you still choose to rise. You don't need more advice. You don't need a 10-step plan or the perfect morning routine. You need clarity. You need honesty. You need to drop the excuses that have become too familiar. I'm not ready. I'm not talented enough. I'll start when I feel more motivated. No, that version of you that you dream about, the one that moves with confidence, leads with integrity, and lives with purpose, they're not waiting. They're not hiding. They're already inside you. But you won't meet them by hesitating. You'll meet them by acting, by letting go of the perfectionism that keeps you stuck. Because perfectionism is just fear wearing a nice outfit, and fear only grows stronger the longer you let it speak without resistance. Every moment you delay is a moment you train yourself to settle, to doubt, to live as a lesser version of what you could be. But the flip side, every moment you decide to act, to take the uncomfortable step, to speak the honest truth, to hold yourself to a higher standard, you grow, you evolve, you shift the trajectory of your life by inches that one day become miles. This is the power of choice. It's not a dramatic transformation overnight. It's the steady layering of effort, of intention, of integrity. Day by day, habit by habit, and slowly, the gap between who you were and who you want to be disappears. So here's what I'll leave you with. You don't have to be perfect to begin. You don't have to know all the answers, or feel completely ready, but you do have to begin. Because beginning is what makes you powerful. Choosing to live like the best version of yourself, even if you don't feel like it yet, is the boldest declaration of who you are becoming. And that choice, that's yours to make. No one can give it to you. No one can take it away. So make it. Right now, start living like the person you are meant to become. And don't look back.